I want to start off with Marlon Wayans, right? And I've long been a fan of Marlon Wayans, and I'm not saying that in order to justify what I'm about to say right now, because I'm going to say exactly what I feel, and I don't pull any punches. And so if I agree with you, I agree with you. If I disagree with you, then so be it. But I want to have this conversation about Marlon Wayans because Marlon Wayans, for all intents and purposes, went on Instagram over the last few days and decided that he wanted to push a gay agenda. I call it the alphabet community or the alphabet people simply because I don't really necessarily care for it. I don't agree with it, but that doesn't mean that I want to silence your right to be able to do whatever it is that you want to do. And I think that that's where the disconnect comes before we get into Marlon Wayans, because I want to preface this conversation by saying that it's not necessarily about being phobic about anything, because I'm not scared, and I don't think the majority of people are scared about anything. They're tired of this agenda being pushed to them, to their children. And just because that's something that you're going through, because I'm hearing that a child of his is possibly trans or something like that, just because that's something that you're going through does not mean that that's something that we should be subjected to, right? I'm not pushing an agenda to be heterosexual. That's just something that I am. And so I don't need to push for them to teach certain things or to acquiesce over into a certain lifestyle, because it's natural. Aside from my religious beliefs, aside from the fact that I'm Christian, aside from the fact that I stand on doing whatever it is that's right according to the word of God, and that's a completely separate conversation. Marlon Wayans, let's get back to him. He decided that he wanted to go on Instagram and specifically post this. He said, "Happy Pride to all my LGBTQ plus peoples." Did a photo shoot with the great photographer Parrish Lewis. Dope pic. Good grief, on Prime Video now. Watch this Father's Day. I'm straight. P.S. I'm straight. He goes on to say, "Well, according to my cisgender male, my child cisgender male, I just love and support my peoples." And then he goes on to promote some other stuff, so on and so forth. Now, apparently he started to receive some backlash about whatever it was that he posted on Instagram. And then he went on to the next picture, which he said, "Yeah, and just for the hate mongers, I'm posting another." Now, obviously, this was planned because he posted it back to back. And of course, he was going to receive all of the feedback and the negativity from the people that disagreed with whatever it is that he was promoting. Goes on to post another, which he had a face mask on. And it said, "You mad? I can do this all day, but instead, I think I'll do it all month. Happy Pride." Where is this coming from? Why is this a thing? Why is he pushing and promoting this agenda for no reason at all? And I think that it's part clout chasing and then part agenda so that he can get more visibility and support from the powers that be. Of course, we know that we are living in Sodom and Gomorrah and this world is doomed. And that's not to say that anything is going to happen tomorrow. But what I am saying is this world is absolutely filled with wickedness at the highest level. Now, of course, people are going to say, well, you're not perfect or whatever, so on and so forth. But to be perfect is not necessarily what we question. We're questioning morals, ethics, and what it is that our children are going to have to be subjected to, because it's not about us. And so although I think that he's clout chasing, and then he went on to do another photo right after that, and he said, "Do I look like I really give a F? Happy Pride Month, especially to all the hateful dudes out there mad because I'm supporting family and friends. For people to be that homophobic," and they always gonna throw the ad hominem attacks out, "assuming that you're phobic or you're scared of it, and you're not scared of it, you just don't agree with it." And I'll dig into that in a minute. "For all the people that are homophobic reeks of repressed feelings and desires." It's the same thing that women do. You know, when we start to hold women accountable, because the kryptonite of women in a lot of instances, not all, but of course a lot of them, the kryptonite for women in a lot of instances is to start throwing ad hominem attacks instead of addressing the issues that people are bringing up. And so what they'll say is, "Who hurt you?" or "You must be gay," or "They don't want us, they want themselves," and all of that. And so in order to deflect from the real issues and addressing it, he goes on the attack, he goes on the offensive, instead of taking responsibility and accountability and start to address the issues that people are raising. Because with more power comes more responsibility. And because you have a platform and because you have more visibility, people start to get disappointed because you're blurring the lines between entertainment and agenda. goes on to say, homophobic reeks of repressed feelings and desires. Bruh, don't live like that. Come on out, be you. That's what pride is all about, acceptance. I swear I got so many more pics. And then he starts to post, the hate comments and stuff like that, and then goes on to do whatever it is that he's doing. I'm personally disappointed in Marlon Wayans because I was a fan. I thought that he was a safe comic. And one of the reasons why I like people or like specific entertainers is not necessarily because I think that they are the best at what they do, although I do think that he's talented. But we've largely overlooked a lot of what Marlon Wayans has been pushing throughout all of these years that we don't necessarily agree with within the community. And so when I say the community, I'm not even talking about black people. I'm talking about the culture in general. Because I don't rock with people just based off of the color of their skin, but I rock with people based off of the content of their character. And I think it's important for us to also give a little bit of grace to allow for people to feel whatever it is they want to feel and do what they want to do. Conservative. I absolutely am conservative. But the disposition that I have is about the agenda that he's pushing, not necessarily about my particular beliefs. See, to be conservative means that I live my life a certain way, but I also believe in the ability or the United States in that we basically live in a society where you're free to do whatever it is that you want to do. I don't believe in censorship. I believe in free speech, but I also believe in my right to criticize, but I would never prevent you from being able to do whatever it is that you do in order to make a living. Now, you just so happen to be in entertainment, so I think that there's an agenda evolved, and I think that you also benefit from continuing to push this in social media because you're around, or the industry that you're in is highly sexual, and you continue to push this on people and in society, which is obviously not best for us. And so you refuse to take accountability for what it is that you're doing, but then at the same time, because you think that this is something that you're subjected to based off of family and friends, that it's okay to do it. But it's also okay for you to be a man and stand up against what you know is the wrong thing, or maybe you was just taught differently, or you was raised in an industry that it's not a bad thing, right? I mean, again, I say this saying that Marlon Wayans has largely been a part of pushing an agenda that we've largely overlooked and given grace because, in a lot of people's eyes, he's black. So, for example, we remember white chicks. And whereas so many other comedians got flack, I mean, even Martin Lawrence caught flack for Big Mama's House, and Wesley Snipes, and Tyler Perry. Marlon Wayans has largely skated under the radar as far as us holding him accountable for what it is that he promoted in some of the movies that he's been a part of. He's always been sassy, always been ashy, and always been pushing an agenda. And as early as I can remember in particular, I remember White Chicks. I never watched the movie because I was absolutely disgusted. I never supported the movie because I hated the fact that he was dressing up like Caitlyn Jenner in order to try to convey to you guys that this was funny and this is something that we're supposed to be a part of. Ha, 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 ha. And then now here we come. They already took over a whole month, probably one of the best months of the year as far as the longest and warmest months. Meanwhile, black people, even though I don't support the whole diversity, equity, and inclusion thing, black people is subjected to February, but they take over a whole month. We got to see this all month, even during Juneteenth, which I don't necessarily rock with that either, but we got to see this. I'd rather listen and hear Juneteenth dialogue and rhetoric than hearing this whole situation where they took over a whole month and said that we supposed to celebrate diversity, equity, and inclusion in this place, right? And so, we see Marlon Wayans. We acknowledge you. We see you continuing the clout chase. We don't agree with you. And I think that this is all an agenda, and I think that he understands exactly what's happening. And so the more visibility is just like social media. The more visibility that you get, the more clout you get. I'm sure he has something to promote. And it's not just celebrating the people in his family or his child or whatever that is. I don't think that that's what it is. I think that a lot of these guys have been around and they've possibly experienced some things and seen some things. And I'm not saying that he's gay because I would never throw an ad hominem attack, but I think that they've been around to where they've been convinced, showcased, and their moral compasses has been compromised to where now they're going to continue to push this agenda. and we're now going to have to subject ourselves to it. So I no longer think that Marlon Wayans is safe. He probably wasn't safe to begin with, but I like to tap in and look at things, entertainment, that I can also look at with my daughter. And I encourage you guys to ignore Marlon Wayans, because what they've largely started to do, or what they've done throughout the past, is weaponize the fact that you are vocal. But the less visibility that you give these people that continue to push these negative agendas that we don't necessarily agree with, the less that they'll sit here and continue to advocate for it, because they know that they're wrong. And the more that you yell, the more clicks and views that they get, and the more that they can continue to push this agenda.